Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and welcome back to part 4 of our Taming of the Shu series, titled The War for Shu. In our last episode, we ended with a cliffhanger, as I mentioned that an unexpected event would almost ruin Liu Bei's plans, as Liu Bei had requested additional reinforcements and supplies from Liu Zhang, only to receive less than half of the requested amount. But before Liu Bei could turn this slight into a rallying cry to wage war against Liu Zhang, the whole plot to steal the Yi province was outed when a letter from Zhang Song was intercepted by none other than Zhang Song's own older brother, Zhang Su, who was the administrator of the Guanghan commandery. And not only did Zhang Su intercept the letter, he would also report it to Liu Zhang. Now he did this not on the grounds of any sort of loyalty to Liu Zhang, but purely from a self-preservation point of view, as he feared that if his brother's plan got out, then the entire Zhang clan would be punished. But if he was the one to rat Zhang Song out, then only Zhang Song would be punished, which would minimize the impact to the entire clan. Interestingly enough, Zhang Song never should have even written this letter in the first place, as he wrote it when he first heard Liu Bei was planning to leave the Yi province when he asked Liu Zhang for those reinforcements. Little did he know that this was just Liu Bei's ploy to convince Liu Zhang to provide him some more reinforcement and supplies. But now with the letter and their plan outed, Liu Zhang finally had the evidence to confirm his suspicions about Liu Bei. Immediately, Zhang Song was executed, as all the gate passes between Chengdu and Jiameng Pass, where Liu Bei was garrisoned, were placed on high alert as Liu Zhang awaited for Liu Bei's next move. And when this news reached Liu Bei, it was apparent that the false pretenses would no longer work, as war was the only option remaining. So consulting with his chief strategist Pang Tong, Liu Bei was offered 3 options. The first and best option, according to Pang Tong, was to select their best troops and immediately set out to march day and night to reach Chengdu before Liu Zhang would expect an attack. Once there, they need to sneak into the city and try to capture Liu Zhang, which would effectively end the war before it all starts. The second option is to use the fact that the garrison at the Baishui Gate had still not received any news of Zhang Song's execution. Therefore, we can trick them into coming to Jiameng Pass under the same pretense that we are leaving, and that we're hosting this farewell feast before leaving for the Jin province. Then once Generals Yang Huai and Gao Pei takes this bait, we can capture them and execute them before taking control of the entirety of Baishui Pass and the 10,000 garrison that's stationed there. And then we can use our combined force to turn south and attack Chengdu together. Then for the final option, we can play it totally safe. Now that the plot has been foiled, we can retreat our forces back to the Jin province to regroup with our forces there and try to take the Yi province from the outside by force. While this route obviously will be more difficult, it is the least risky, as we are currently isolated and in a rather precarious situation with Liu Zhang knowing our intentions, not wanting to risk it all in the sneak attack on Chengdu, but also not wanting to give up all their advances into the Yi province already during the prior year. Liu Bei picked the second option. And without suspecting a thing, Yang Huai and Gao Pei were tricked to come to Jiameng Pass to see Liu Bei off, only to be ambushed, captured, and executed on the spot. Then Liu Bei, finally using the commander's seal given to him by Liu Zhang, ordered the Baishui garrison to join him. Now, of course, soldiers are human beings, and a mere commanding seal isn't going to be able to force the garrison to forgive Liu Bei for killing their commanders, nor is it going to be able to force them to march against their lord. But Liu Bei's troop also quickly took control of the garrison at Baishui Gate and took all the soldiers' families living there as hostage, forcing them to join Liu Bei. Without any commanders left to lead a resistance, the garrison eventually complied. Now, even though Liu Bei received this influx of 10,000 troops, He still had to pull 10,000 units from his own army to stay behind at Baishui Gate, to keep an eye on the hostages, and to guard the gate pass, as the security of the entire Yi province is still an important matter, as he did not want to find himself in a flank position with Liu Zhang in the front and Zhang Lu in the back. So, with an army of roughly 25,000 strong, Liu Bei started his march towards Chengdu. At first, Liu Zhang's advisor, Chengdu, offered a plan to Liu Zhang, suggesting that because Liu Bei's army is isolated, with no support and supply lines, all they had to do is to force all the civilians east of the Pei River to migrate west, while burning all the crops and fields to starve Liu Bei's forces out. This way, all they need is one strong garrison at Pei, the same place where Liu Zhang had welcomed Liu Bei with a feast, to stall Liu Bei's forces there, and it would just be a matter of time before Liu Bei would run out of food and be defeated. While this was a solid military plan, Liu Zhang rejected it on the grounds that a lord's job is to provide a stable livelihood for his citizens, and not to upend and ruin their lives as weapons against the enemy. And not only was this plan rejected, Chengdu was also dismissed for even suggesting it. Even so, Chengdu did not blame Liu Zhang, as he also understood where he was coming from, as he would live out his days as a regular civilian, refusing Liu Bei's court offers in the future on the grounds that a loyal official never serves two lords. And at first, when rumors of this plan first reached Liu Bei became rather concerned, as this tactic would be extremely effective against them. But Fa Zheng quickly pointed out that while Liu Zhang might be a weak lord, he is nothing but kind, and he will never force the migration of his citizens or burn down their fields. And certainly, Liu Zhang did not force his people to migrate west, but the Pei River still offered a key defensive position, as generals Wu Yi, Liu Gui, Ling Bao, Deng Xian, and Zhang Ren were sent to defend Pei. But sadly, all 5 generals were quickly defeated by Liu Bei's forces, with Wu Yi even surrendering to join Liu Bei. And with Pei lost, the 4 remaining generals retreated back to the next line of defense at the city of Mianzhu. And seeing his forces struggle on the field, Liu Zhang decided to send Li Yan and Fei Guan to reinforce the 4 defeated generals at Mianzhu. Unfortunately, Li Yan, who hailed from the Nanyang Commandery in the Jin province, and Fei Guan, who hailed from the Jiangxia Commandery, also in the Jin province, both thought they would have a better future working for Liu Bei, who currently controlled half of the Jin province. So instead of reinforcing Mianzhu, both of them immediately switched sides, forcing the forces at Mianzhu to pull back even farther to the final defense line at Luocheng, which sat on the Tuo River. Finding it hard to trust any of his generals anymore, Liu Zhang turned to his son, Liu Xun, as Liu Xun took over the command and defenses at Luocheng, with Zhang Ren and Liu Gui assisting him. And for a brief moment, Liu Bei rested his force at Mianzhu as he would spread out his forces to start conquering some of the nearby towns and seek for food to resupply himself. But not long after, Liu Bei would resume his advance on Chengdu, and standing his way was this final stronghold at Luocheng. At first, Liu Xun was quite confident, as he allowed General Zhang Ren's forces to sally out to face Liu Bei on the field. But very soon, Zhang Ren's forces were overwhelmed as they became stranded at a bridge called Yanqiao, where his forces would be completely surrounded before being eliminated, with Zhang Ren fighting till his death. Now, seeing that they were no match for Liu Bei's forces on the field, Liu Xun dug in, as he would manage to hold on to the city of Luocheng for over a year, as Liu Bei's repeated efforts to siege the city failed. Not only did the siege itself fail, the siege came at a heavy cost, as Pang Tong, while directing one such siege attack, would get struck by a stray arrow, ending his life prematurely at the age of 36. And with Pang Tong's untimely death, and Luocheng nowhere closer to being taken, Liu Bei finally reached out for reinforcement from the Jin province, as in 214, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun, and Zhuge Liang sailed up the Yangtze River, targeting the Ba region, in order to open up a second front against Chengdu as a means to lessen the pressure off of Liu Bei's forces at Luocheng. And with Liu Zhang's attention focused on Liu Bei, who was knocking on his doorsteps, the reinforcements from Jin province broke through with ease. Zhang Fei's forces landed first and continued up into the Ba region, capturing and employing General Yan Yan along the way, after Yan Yan valiantly expressed his desire to die rather than join them in a surrender. Then Zhuge Liang worked his way up the Tor River, which was the river that Luocheng was sitting on, as his main job was to reinforce and resupply Liu Bei's main forces as quickly as possible, while Zhao Yun's forces sailed all the way down to Jiangyang and started to advance up towards the southern flanks of Chengdu, as the full surround on the capital city was well on its way. Once reinforced, Liu Bei had Fa Zheng write a surrender letter to Liu Zhang, demanding his surrender, as now, with over 2/3 of the entire Yi province in their hands, the result of continued resistance is a foregone conclusion. But at this point, Liu Zhang still did not want to surrender, and by June of 214, the city of Luocheng finally broke, as Liu Bei's forces now completely encircled Chengdu. And for the first 10 days of this siege, Liu Zhang would hold firm, as the city of Chengdu still had 30,000 troops and over a year worth of supplies and food. And on top of that, the citizens within the city supported their weak but kind ruler and were willing to fight to the end against Liu Bei and his invading armies. But then on the 10th day, a new general appeared, as his forces would encamp on the north side of the city. And after seeing this new general, Liu Zhang would change his mind as he started to consider a peaceful surrender. And to find out who this new general was and why he would have such a big impact on Liu Zhang, come back next time as we'll wrap up our Taming of the Shu series. Now hopefully you all enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you all then. Bye!